This is Chase with Houston Frogs. Today I'm going to be talking about what you're looking for in a tropical vivarium substrate, particularly for dart frog habitats, which the same substrate will work great in tree frog habitats, it'll work great in tropical gecko habitats as well. But before I get into that, that's actually the second part of this video. This is posted particularly in response to Joe's previous video. Now, if you didn't see Joe's previous video, we're having a little bit of a debate, and he runs the Simply Bioactive group on Facebook. And his premise is that you can just throw Miracle Grow in a habitat, make it as simple as possible, and there you go. And mine is that you really need to make a habitat that not necessarily is being built particularly for its complexity, but there are complexities that are built in to make it a lot more stable and more naturalistic, so that the animals will have healthier lives. There's less chance of things going wrong with it. From this point on until that second part where I'm talking about substrates in particular, I'm going to be addressing Joe's video and Joe personally as well. Joe, in the beginning of your video, you talk about these logical fallacies and how we may have had some kind of a miscommunication about that. Quite honestly, there's an issue going on that anything outside of it, may you just have a disdain for scientists, because it seems like that's particularly what this is all about, is your disdain for anybody that's an authority figure or anybody that is a scientist. That's the thing. Nothing I can ever tell you is ever going to convince you. Anything that I tell you, you're going to say, no, it's not this way because of this or that or the other. It doesn't matter how many thousands of people back me up. It doesn't matter how many thousands of scientific articles back me up. It doesn't matter what somebody's credentials are, unless you see it for yourself, experience it, and it aligns with what you believe, then it's not valid to you. And honestly, this is the whole reason why, beyond a lot of other things, I thought that maybe I was wasting my time replying in this debate that we're having. It did take me about 3 weeks to post this as well, because I have taken on some extra work, because everything's expensive. Gas is 3 times the price, food 3 times the price, and I'm having to make more money for my family just to be able to survive. All of us are. All business owners are. Unfortunately, things are just tough right now. The thing is, I have argued with people before that have narcissistic personality disorder, and that's not necessarily saying that you do, but it's this I can never be wrong mentality. That if somebody says something that is different from what you believe, then it's never going to be good enough to you. You're never going to believe it. You're only going to align yourself with someone that does believe and say what you believe. I've actually dealt with another person like this recently, far less polite than you, honestly. Far more belligerent. He's actually constantly been harassing me. His name's Brandon. He's actually commented on one of your videos. Doesn't have a clue in the world what he's talking about, but he will argue forever because he is always right about everything. And that's actually why he's been banned from every single group on Facebook that has to do with dart frogs. Again, you're much more polite about it, but I want to caution you that as a scientist, I can never have the luxury of saying that I'm always right about everything. Now, I can say that I have all this experience, I have all this knowledge, I have all this education, and I have all of my peers who are also highly educated, highly experienced, know what they're doing in this hobby. They're backing me up. And that's why I'm telling you what I'm telling you about the cleanup crew, the drainage layer, the soils. But at the same time, I can always say that, well, there's always something that we're learning. There's always something new. I don't have the luxury of saying that I'm always right. I have to admit, sometimes, yes, sometimes everyone in this world can be wrong. It doesn't matter how experienced they are. It doesn't matter how educated they are. Somebody can always be wrong. But with that being said, when you do have somebody that has very high credentials, when you have somebody that's very experienced, somebody that, along with many other people who are also the most experienced, respect in the hobby, tell you something, generally that should have some weight to it. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to be offended about being called a coward for not posting for 3 weeks. Again, I was working really hard trying to feed my family. I'm taking some time out because I guess I was baited a bit to go ahead and make this. So here's the reply video. But anywho, you say that you hear the flaws in your experiment from these people. I'm talking about the experiment particularly with the tomato plants. You're saying that you hear all the flaws that people are pointing out, like for instance, nobody grows tomatoes in their vivariums. And you're hearing the flaws so far as, well, there's a lot of plants that Miracle-Gro will not support, but you're shutting all those out. The thing about it is, I have tried Miracle-Gro, not in vivariums for animals. God, no, I never do that because I never want to subject my animals to chemical fertilizers. Funny enough, we actually got a reply from Miracle-Gro saying that no, you do not want to use these with your pets. They caution specifically against using their products with their pets. But the thing about it is, with those tomato plants, and don't get me wrong, I'm happy, I guess, that my product came out second to Miracle-Gro for growing tomatoes. I never knew that. That's pretty cool. I knew it was good, but didn't know that. But we make those substrates particularly to be animal safe. We make them particularly to drain well. And I'm going to get into this later, so far as what you're looking at for a vivarium substrate, but Miracle-Gro was not designed to be a vivarium substrate. Just like the company said, it is designed particularly to grow tomatoes, vegetables, ornamentals, things like that. Now, the results of your experiment, again, all it shows is that, yes, Miracle-Gro does what's designed to, which is grow tomato plants. And I guess it shows that mine is the second best for growing tomato plants, but that's really all it shows. Most habitats for dart frogs are more or less closed systems, which you said is not natural, but putting frogs in a glass box to begin with is not natural. But a lot of things we do in the hobby are not necessarily natural. There are things that we do for the health of animals, and we're trying to get as close to nature as possible without it being something where, yes, in nature there's also parasites that infect the frogs. There's chytrid that will infect the frogs and kill them. There's hazards where the frogs will fall into a stream and drown. We're not trying to put hazards in there. We're putting things in there that are beneficial for the frogs. We're picking and choosing those things, and we're choosing to exclude things that are dangerous for them. Now, so far as you not liking to put isopods in there, you're saying that they need some kind of care. They need to throw food in. Well, the food is the poop from the frogs. The food is the decaying plants. You literally buy an $8 culture of springtails, an $8 culture of isopods. You throw them in there, and you do nothing outside of the care for the dart frogs. And I can show you all my tanks that have thousands of dwarf white, in particular, isopods, because they continually multiply in there. They don't need anything other than the food you're getting to the frogs and the misting that you're doing, which you're going to do anyways. So it's no extra care. So there's really no valid reason not to put springtails or isopods in there. And I'm about to show you something really cool here too. So you said that isopods don't burrow, but I can actually show you in this cultured dwarf white isopods that I have that this particular species burrows a lot. Actually, if you dig down all the way to the bottom, this is about 6 inches deep, you see all these isopods right here, which are helping to aerate the soil. And funny enough, I actually put a pile of dead fruit flies here, and I put an algae wafer here, and I put some fish flakes here, just some random food sources, and a decaying leaf, and they're all gone. And that was about 3 or 4 days ago that I put those in here, and they're all gone. They ate them. But you can see all throughout here, there's isopods, just all throughout. So these do burrow, and this is the most popular species that people use in the hobby. People use dwarf white isopods in about 99% of the vivariums that are built. So another thing is, you said that in your experiment that the springtails were not decaying, or were not eating the fungus that was in there. Well, since we do run a mycology laboratory here, funny enough, we actually put some petri dishes with a couple of known types of fungi in here just to show you how they do eat the fungi, how they do keep in check. Now, these were older plates. They were plates that may have contamination on. But as you can see, I just put this plate in here yesterday, and already the springtails are starting to consume it. They're starting to break it down. There's springtails all in here. And these are temperate springtails, which again, they're the most popular in the hobby. This one again, you can see where they're starting to eat the ghost fungus. This is Ganoderma sicile. This is one of the toughest mycelium for the springtails consume. The toughest. This is something that's actually used by some people to make building materials out of. Yes, they actually use mushroom blocks for building materials in some aspects. But you can see all of these springtails consuming the mycelium on this plate. So that proves right there, in my own experiment, that yes, springtails do actually eat fungi. Yes, they do actually keep that fungi in check. And yes, they actually reproduce on their own. You have naturally occurring fungi in your vivarium. You don't need to do anything else to take care of them. So, again, whose experiment's right? You know, whose experiment's right? So, go ahead and put that down. With all that being said, I can go ahead and get into vivarium soils now and start talking to you about what you are looking for in a soil. We don't want chemical fertilizers in our soil. Half of your experiments had chemical fertilizers in there. Well, there's a reason that chemical runoff is a huge environmental issue. There's a reason that so many people care about chemical runoff from crops and even waste runoff from cattle and things like that. Those nutrients are not always good. They may be good for some plants, but they're harmful for others. And a lot of times they're actually harmful for animals as well. Vivarium substrates, correctly made vivarium substrates, do not have chemical fertilizers in there. Amphibians are extremely sensitive. Their skin is osmotic. They actually can absorb those chemicals directly into their nervous system. So anything that you put in this substrate needs to be safe for amphibians to walk on. Miracle-Gro? No, I would never recommend somebody put Miracle-Gro in their vivarium. It's just the most foolish thing to do. It has none of the properties that you're looking for in a vivarium substrate, and it's also something that could be potentially harmful to your animals, just like the company stated. In these vivarium substrates, we want them to be well draining. We want it to be something that's going to allow air to get to the roots. We want something that's going to be not easily compacted. We want something that's not going to hold on to too much moisture, but it's going to hold on to enough to be able to support plant life. This is something where, you know, if you put Miracle-Gro and you try to grow something that's actually difficult to grow in a vivarium, something that's meant for vivariums, let's say different types of philodendrons, margravia, triolinas, biophytums, things like that, things that you can't grow in open environment unless you have 70, 80, 90% humidity. You have to grow it in a vivarium. Those things will thrive in a tropical substrate like ABG or like our premium tropical substrate. They will not thrive in Miracle-Gro. I've actually tried to grow triolina and biophytum seedlings in Miracle-Gro, and it killed them. They got chemical burns, and they died from chemical burns. Also, the Miracle-Gro waterlogs very easily. So why would you ever want that in your vivarium? And you're talking about how the bacteria is going to proliferate in the Miracle-Gro and how it's going to break down any kind of poo or things like that. But that bacteria can be absorbed directly into the nervous system of the frogs. It can be absorbed directly through the tissues and kill them. We want other things like isopods, springtails, yes, even fungi breaking down those nutrients so that we don't have to worry about those nutrients building up and causing a bacterial bloom that's then going to end up killing our animals. We want the substrate to also have the proper pH too. So most tropical soils are more on the average about a 5 to 5.5. They're acidic. And that acidity also helps to reduce fungal growth because, again, it's all about balance. It's all about balance in the system. You don't want the fungi to grow out of control. And so typically, again, our substrate's going to be around a 5 to 5.5 on the pH scale. You also want something that's going to have organic nutrients to where plants can thrive, but you have to remember that this is something where you're going to have frogs that are defecating, and those nutrients are being added to the soil. You're going to have springtails, isopods, flies that are dying. Those add nutrients to the soil. You have plant matter, leaves. In the rainforest, most of the nutrients are locked up in the leaves. You have leaf litter and then leaves decaying off of plants that are again going to add nutrients to the soil. So you never need to fertilize this soil. There's just absolutely 100% no need for it. And that's why all the vivariums that you see, if you've looked through pictures of vivariums from experienced froggers, they have no issues with plant growth. They're constantly trying to trim and throw away plants because they have too much plant growth. So why are you focusing on this aspect of adding in so many chemical fertilizers into the substrate that is very likely harmful to its inhabitants, and only caring about the plants and only caring about tomato plants instead of the tropical vivarium plants, the more, I guess, rare plants, the more desirable plants that people are actually growing their vivarium? Why are you not doing an experiment to where you have an enclosed habitat vivarium that has 70 to 90% humidity, like what we keep dart frogs in, and try Miracle Grow with that? Try Miracle Grow with these exotic plants I'm talking about. Well, I mean, I asked you that today and you denied that. You said you didn't want to do that experiment. It was a waste of your time. I don't see how it's a waste of your time to make an actual vivarium using the Miracle Grow, using the actual plants people use in the hobby, building a vivarium like people do in the hobby, just changing out that one variable, the substrate. Don't do an ABG or do a tropical, try your Miracle Grow, and then tell us the results. See how it does, because I guarantee you that most of the plants will die, the inhabitants will die. There's a lot of different bacteria and fungi, which I can show you under the microscope, that's going to grow on that Miracle Grow, and your habitat's going to fail. So that's my response, and I will look forward to yours. Thank you.